Green man. It's long, but it's drizzling, so inside. Right, yesterday we established where we derive our authority and that we are all equal and equally the highest lawmakers on the land. And all interaction lawfully can only be through contract, lawful contract, which means an offer. It means full disclosure and acceptance of the offer. If any of those elements are missing, then it's not a lawful contract. And we can derive from what we said yesterday in video 3 that really we can see where human rights come from, and those really are that each human has the right to take what they need for survival, being adequate shelter from the elements, clean water and nutritious food from any other living human who has more than they need. So that's the first human right, and that's derived through creation. Now, we went through basically the procedure of settling disputes resulting, and now we will look at how to settle. If disputes cannot be settled privately, how do they get settled lawfully? Okay, so therefore from whereas 2 is if matters cannot be settled privately, the claimant has the right to call a court. So whereas 3, this is the preamble to man-made law in the UK. Matters not resolved have resulted in ongoing resentment, and to maintain a peaceful society, each human has a responsibility to ensure justice for all. And 3, the failure of the governed in understanding how to seek redress under the law by the custom of giving notice to another human when harmed, or witnessing another human being harmed, will result in further harm. And 4, I have previously knowingly caused harm. And 5, I have previously failed to provide assistance when I knew another human was knowingly causing harm where my survival was not at risk. 6, history is a catalogue of evidence where a lack of the rule of law results in a society breaking down into chaos. And 7, in order to keep hold of unlawful gains, the end result is increased violence to suppress the uprisings from those who have been enslaved knowingly or unknowingly. And 8, on the death of the reigning monarch, the person entitled to succeed to the throne does so as soon as his or her predecessor dies. And as summed up in the phrase, "The king is dead, long live the king." Halsbury's laws give some historical background to this maximum of common law that the king never dies. This is the common law source of how the sovereignty works in the UK, and where the royal family continues the line. Whereas 9, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, in her first promise, holding a book which I can only assume is the King James Bible 1611, as the promise is made with an archbishop, it's definitely a Bible of some sort, and it's reasoned conclusion. Where, in her first promise, she undertook to govern the peoples of this and various other lands according to their respective laws and customs. And whereas 10, the common law reflects the laws as recorded in the group of books commonly referred to as the Holy Bible, as verified by Sir William Blackstone in his published commentaries. And therefore, 11, the highest man-made law in the UK is the law of the land, common law. 11, only that can be the highest man-made law, the law of the land that the people live under in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and are accountable to. And whereas 4, the move from society based in slavery to one of truth, the rule of law is done by contract. So this is looking at what is a contract, what is contract law, which essentially is Admiralty Law. So whereas 4, 1, to move from slavery, and my definition is, as a human knowingly restricting the use of another human's free will. and this can be through physical or mental coercion. So again, to move from slavery to peaceful coexistence, humans can only enter by their free will into a contract to interact with one another. For a contract to be lawful, it must meet the following most important legal maxims, as I've said earlier, from commercial and Admiralty Law. 1. A workman is worthy of his hire, reference which you can check for yourselves. The legal maxim is, it is against the equity for free men not to have the free disposal of their own property. 2. All are equal under the law, and you'll understand at the end of this why people feel there is not justice. Again, referenced, the legal maxim that we're all familiar with is, no one is above the law. Genesis 1:26, King James Version, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and all the earth, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Note 1. As the law of creation is the highest law, it supersedes man to mean human. This is the legal maxim which, in commas, by the law of nations ought to be common and not to be converted into a monopoly and the private gain of a few. 3. In commas, truth is sovereign. Again, reference, check them out. The legal maxim derived therefrom is to lie, to go against the mind. Numbers chapter blah blah. If a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. So from God's law, your word is your bond. Then you have right to witnesses, and this is again referenced, Deuteronomy chapter blah blah verse 6, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or 3 witnesses shall he that is worthy of death to be put to death, but at the mouth of 1 witness he shall not be put to death, i.e. death you must have 2 or 3 witnesses. Verse 15, 1 witness shall not rise up against a man for any inequity or any sin in any sin that he sinneth. At the mouth of 2 witnesses or the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. Matthew chapter 18 verse 16. But if he will not hear thee, then take with thee 1 or 2 more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. Corinthians chapter 13 verse 1. This is the 3rd time I am coming to you. In the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses shall every word be established. So from God's law you cannot be denied at least 2 witnesses. 4. Truth is expressed by means of an affidavit. Reference. 5. An unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in commas. And again reference, and from there comes the legal maxim, he who does not deny admits. So if somebody lays a claim, then you must rebut the claim. You are innocent until all the facts of the affidavit are proven to be incorrect, and then judgment is made. So you are innocent until proven guilty. 6. An unrebutted affidavit becomes the judgment in commas. So any court proceedings in a court, tribunal or arbitration forum consist of a contest or duel of commercial affidavits, wherein the points remaining unrebutted in the end stand as truth, and the matter to which the judgment of the law is applied. Therefore, why do you not get justice? Because it's not based on the law, it's only based on the affidavits of truth, where the last remaining truth stands. It has nothing to do with justice. 7. As a matter to be expressed, a matter must be expressed to be resolved. Again reference, the legal maxim, he who fails to assert his rights has none. If we don't stand up for yourself, you have no rights. They will trample all over you, as they do, which is why everyone feels there is no justice. 8. He who leaves the battlefield first loses by default. Legal maximum. He who does not repel a wrong when he can occasions it. 9. Sacrifice is a measure of credibility. One who is not damaged, put at risk, or willing to swear on an oath that he consents to claim against his commercial liability in the event that any of his statements or actions is groundless or unlawful, has no basis to assert claims or charges, and forfeits all credibility and right to claim an authority. The legal maximum derived therefrom, he who bears the burden ought also derive the benefit. The final maximum of contract law derived from Admiralty Law, Law of the Sea. 10. A lien or claim can be satisfied only through rebuttal by counter affidavit, point for point, resolution by jury or payment. The legal maxim, if the plaintiff does not prove his case, the defendant is absolved, i.e. innocent until proven guilty. And 3. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II does so through what is commonly referred to as the government, which includes but is not limited to House of Lords, Parliament, Prime Minister for the making of acts to administer her agents, i.e. the jurisdiction is only within governments for acts to allow them to fulfill her promise to the people. And 4. This same procedure for contracting is used by the instrument Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II to govern the people of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, where a bill is a proposed law, an offer to contract, which is introduced into Parliament. Once a bill has been debated, negotiation of the terms and conditions, and then approved, acceptance of the contract by each House of Parliament, and has received royal assent, it becomes law. And important, which only has jurisdiction within the government. Hereinafter I refer to this as statute law, and it's very misleading. Becomes law and is known as an act. Okay, it only is jurisdiction is within the government. Whereas 5. Some herein after few is what I'll refer to them within the government are knowingly introducing unlawful bills for their profits derived from your labour and ideas. And 6, then knowingly allowing them to be enacted to become law within the jurisdiction of the government, which is lawful due to each human's inherent right to contract under free will from the Creator. And 7, then knowingly misleading the governed into believing that this is a law in accordance with the first promise of Queen Elizabeth II, according to their respective laws and customs. And 8, the few then knowingly cause harm by letting the agents operate under the presumption that acts derived as described in 4 above are lawful in accordance with their oaths and affirmations government agents serving Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II gave. And 9, those agents with this presumed authority and jurisdiction unknowingly act unlawfully with non-contracted fellow humans. And 7, the few who know that it is unlawful have added procedures of arrest where agents with their presumed authority and jurisdiction, quote, acts an offer to contract, which is, do you agree to move from common law into statute law, and hence fall under the jurisdiction of the act you are being charged with, which if you do not rebut, which is the negotiation of the terms and conditions of the contract in accordance with contract law as detailed in 2 above, as used by those in government to create the act in 4 above. By 8, being honourable, the act reasonable, giving you a second chance as we are all human and can make mistakes. And 9, if you still do not rebut they have acted honourably by giving you a reasonable opportunity to the best of their knowledge, and a default judgment is made that you accepted the contract, again contract law as detailed in 2 above, as used by those in government to create the act in 4 above. And 10, the few knowingly have further procedures to justify to themselves their knowingly causing harm by charges now being made, where you are asked if you understand the charges. Again, an offer to contract, which is, do you agree to move from common law into statute law? and hence fall under the jurisdiction of the act you are being charged with. Which 11, if you fail to rebut, stands as the default judgment in accordance with contract law as detailed in 2 above and as used by those in government to create the act in 4 above. And 12, as a sovereign human, as you are a sovereign human, to be able to extract the fruits of your labor, you must contract by claiming the legal fiction within the statute law which is made by the government, by using any government identity that you have been given, example, driver's license, passports, or any other government ID badges, etc., is you the human. This completes the process of moving you from common law into statute law and hence fall under the jurisdiction of the act you are being charged with. And 13, once it goes to court, all these lawful actions are nothing but unrebutted presumptions, as there has not been a meeting of minds through full disclosure and understanding of all the terms and conditions of the contract. And 14, this explains why there is such a low confidence in the government. And 15, the belief that many are slaves of the few. And 16, it appears that the trust Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II laid in her agents has been breached, resulting by the few unknown agents failing in their duty of care by putting unlawful bills for royal assent to become acts for those agents governing the people. And 17, unknowingly, agents presuming authority and jurisdiction over the people of this land has caused untold harm to the peoples of this land, where there is no lawful contract giving consent, as there is no full disclosure and meeting of the minds, making an unlawful act. And 18, the few use the same above contract law to generate fear and intimidation and violence. And 19, justify their actions to themselves by saying, we told you what we are doing, but you choose not to rebut our authority and jurisdiction. And 1, hence they have exhausted all means reasonably possible. And 20, the government agents unknowingly follow their orders. And 21, incalculable harm is caused knowingly by the few to all of humanity. And 22, as the actions of the few are knowingly causing harm, are unlawful, and this is slavery. And we'll stop there before we go on to the microcosm. That was a lot to get through, and really you need to understand that. Go through print out the notice of claim, go through and satisfy yourself as to what is true, and test your paradigms, please. Thanks for watching. I'll hopefully get video 5 out today as well. Bye.